That was the other,
Right, there you go.
that was the other thing we thought of. We had one down. Good. All right. Are we still going by the public clock?
Yeah, but it's kind of a rumor.
Anyway, I'm not contagious. She told me that, Sophia.
No, it's not dangerous, it's just.
I would not be here.
Not today.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Warsaw Plan Commission of October 11th. Do we have the minutes read and a motion for approval?
I read the minutes of the last meeting. They appear to be correct to me. I recommend approval.
So motion? Seconded. Diane?
Michelle.
Comment.
River.
Yes,
I
sir.
did notice in the minutes, the word weather like atmosphere was used twice.
You got that
Corrected.
Stanley
Yeah, we fixed
corrected. Like
Thanks,
to be
Jason.
efficient. Unfinished business, Justin.
We have no unfinished business.
All right, new business this evening, just to make a quick announcement. the-
Excuse me, Mr. President, you
Yes,
forgot
sir.
to take the vote on that, on the
On the
minutes.
minutes, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
good point. I stand corrected. Motion seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any dissents? The minutes carry as read. Already covered unfinished business, we're going on to new business. Quick comment before we go into Justin's comments is, we've actually split this. There are two petitions, but we're going to treat them as one, just for time and efficiency's sake. One is a PUD and the other one is for an R1, because the comments are going to be the same, so there's no sense talking about them separately. Everyone here is going to talk in general about the entire plan that's behind me and behind you. So with that, Justin, would you go ahead and proceed, please?
First, I'm going to address the subdivision. So the preliminary plat for the Greenbrier subdivision has been submitted in a timely fashion and reviewed for its conformity to the subdivision control ordinance. The petitioner wishes to subdivide a 33.25 acres into 86 lots. The proposed development provides access to 350 North and Airport Road to the west. A connection to the Dells is proposed through Knollwood Drive as part of this development as well. The connection to the Dells was planned during the construction of that subdivision and will directly benefit the residents on the north, giving them access to Airport Road. It was mentioned in the last meeting that the county does not maintain Knollwood Drive because this is because their trucks are not able to turn around. This connection would fix that issue by providing the county access and the ability to turn their trucks around. After talking with the superintendent of the highway department, they said they would be able to properly maintain that road if that connection was put in place. The proposed development meets the requirements for an R1 zoning district, so it is the opinion of the planning department that the Greenbrier subdivision preliminary plat be approved by this board.
Thank you.
And then I will go on to the PUD. The preliminary plat for the Greenbrier subdivision PUD has been submitted in a timely fashion and reviewed for its conformity to the subdivision control ordinance and section 13.2 regarding planned unit developments. The petitioner wishes to subdivide 9 acres into 42 lots containing attached single-family residential units. You'll notice that the PUD portion of this project has been reduced from the entire site to now only a 9-acre portion of the property, and I can just outline that if this later point works. So it would be this section right here. is the PUD, and everything on the south edge and this entire area is now consistent with R1 zoning. It is the opinion of the planning department that you should give a favorable recommendation to the city council for this proposed PUD ordinance. We implore you not to lose sight of the overall health and needs of our community. The lack of housing necessary for talent acquisition and retention has been highlighted over and over by studies and committees tasked with economic development. We will be doing a disservice to the long-term health and stability of our community if we fail to recognize the benefits of diverse housing that they can bring to our community. I'd also just like to add that this is exactly why we have a PUD ordinance. It's a tool in our toolbox for, it's a tool that we have that was built into our ordinance. When markets and demographics change, we have this tool that we use to adjust in real time to what the needs of the community are and what the needs of developers are. So this is something that is set up, it was planned for, so we have this option to create PUDs. So this is exactly what it was designed to do. So with that, I'll close my remarks.
Thank you, sir. Any questions before we open it to the public? Comments? Thank you. As I said at the last meeting a month ago, we open it up for those in favor of, those in opposition. We discuss it among ourselves, and then we plan to vote. That's at least where we're going to start. So with that, I believe that council is representing both parties tonight, so I hope that they cover it in the detail that they did the last time, and we can go through fairly efficiently. With that, sir, you are?
Tom Neeser, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Attorney with the firm Barrett McNagny, 215 East Berry Street, representing the applicant this evening. With me are Mike Thomas, Jeff Thomas, and AJ Thomas. With you tonight, that represents 3 generations of the developer that's in front of you. Mr. Thomas has over 50 years. Not to age Mike, but over 50 years of development experience. This is being presented to you as an integrated development, the PUD with the primary plat. I'll just take a few minutes on the primary plat. Oakmont took very seriously the comments that were made last month by the neighboring public, and as a result, has gone back to the drawing board, vastly reduced the PUD scope of the overall project, has over 33 acres now that is assigned to just R1 development, and in addition to that, went ahead and looked at the engineering and analysis of an additional access cut onto Airport Road, which is now reflected on the primary plat. All 33 plus acres of the primary plat in front of you this evening meets all of your development standards under the Warsaw zoning ordinance within an R1 zoning district. We believe that is what the neighbors of the Dells and others had requested. That is what is being presented to you. It's a very good project, and we offer that for your consideration and approval this evening. With that, in the northeast corner, as Mr. Taylor indicated, is a vastly reduced PUD zoning area of just 9 acres. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that because that is a zoning change. It's not a primary plat, but an actual zoning change that we're requesting be taken to your city council with a favorable recommendation. The current conditions, as you all know, up in this area are that there continues to be increasing growth and push for growth as this is near your State Road 15 corridor for that portion of Warsaw. If you look at this piece of land, and we drove out there this evening before coming here, but The highest and best use of this piece of land, given the fact that the Dells are there, is really residential development. Commercial development, more intensive uses of development, certainly industrial development, just we believe would be incompatible with what is being proposed here. One of the considerations that you were asked to give under state statute is consideration of your comprehensive plan. And your comprehensive plan very clearly talks about diversity of residential housing. And that's what your PUD zoning district affords. In this case, it will afford single-family residential housing, but of a villamennium nature, which means no obligation for exterior maintenance that's given to the association. And it's more of a carefree housing type of solution. It has nothing to do with pricing or value. It has everything to do with the lifestyle of the property owner. And so the 42 villaminiums that are proposed for the villas of Greenbrier within the PUD area are all designed to meet that market, which is very prevalent in the Warsaw area for empty nesters, retired individuals looking for a maintenance-free type of living environment. With that, and to supplement that, we have gone ahead and provided you with a written commitment, which is allowed under state statute. And that written commitment is in front of you. It has already been signed by Mr. and Mrs. Williams as the existing property owner. It's also been signed by Greenbrier Development, which is an affiliate of Oakmont Development. And the purpose of the written commitment is to give the Planning Commission and then City Council an envelope, so to speak, of what will occur within the PUD zoning district. Last month, there were comments along the lines of, well, we don't really know what's going to go in a PUD zoning district. We're not sure what's going to happen here. Well, the written commitment lays out the framework of what will happen. It allows only single-family residential development. It provides for a maximum of 42 lots. It provides for minimum square footage. It requires a minimum car of 2 bays, which is consistent with your zoning ordinance. It provides for the setback requirements that are consistent with what are being proposed here with this development. And we believe most important, it provides for front residential exterior material standards to make sure that the homes that are being built here are consistent with what we're representing to you. And that is that there's going to be natural wood, brick, stone materials on the front elevations of these homes. All of this is in the written commitment. All of this, if approved, recommended by the Planning Commission, ultimately approved by your City Council, this written commitment will be placed of record in the Kosciuszko County Recorder's Office. And it will help steer what occurs here within these 9 acres as we come back through and then work with both you and your planning department on the actual development. So Greenbrier Development, Oakmont Development, and the property owners, Mr. and Mrs. Williams, are coming to you this evening, not just with empty promises, but they've taken what they have proposed to you and they put it down in writing for you as well. Because of that, we believe that this is consistent with the parameters that you are to consider for state statute in a rezoning request. And on top of that, as we mentioned last month, the entire development as one integrated development will allow the city of Warsaw the ability to extend its existing public sanitary sewer service. That is, it will come from the west down County Road, it'll come to the development from along Airport Road and to the development. And This is a real benefit because, what we don't want to have happen is another 43 acres of land being developed within the city of Warsaw that is on a septic system. That's inconsistent with your comprehensive plan. It's inconsistent with good planning in 2021. What's more consistent are to find ways to work with good quality housing in an effort to stem that tide and to allow sanitary sewer service to be extended. So for those reasons, we would ask for the Plan Commission's approval, Mr. Chairman, on the primary plat for Greenbrier, and we would ask for the Plan Commission's positive recommendation to the Warsaw City Council on the PUD rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions before he steps down? Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else in the audience and would like to speak in favor of the petitions before us? Okay, with that, we'll open it up to anyone in the audience who would like to speak in opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Steve Snyder here on behalf of the Dells Homeowners Association. There are some significant improvements that have been made to this integrated plan, as Mr. Neeser referred to it. The R1 zoning is now in compliance with your subdivision control ordinance, and we're not in a position to object to that, because if it is in compliance, it is to be approved. However, the layout itself leaves one main issue that was raised last month and is raised again, and that's the connection to Knollwood. At last month's hearing, Knollwood was one of two access points into this subdivision. Now there are three, being a connection to Airport Road, which eliminates or should eliminate the need for any connection to Knollwood. The direct access onto Airport Road and the direct access onto County Road 350 should be sufficient to handle this subdivision without dumping traffic down Knollwood and into a less dense area of residential development. One of the biggest problems that the neighborhood has with this development is the Dells was created subject to county zoning standards. That meant much larger lots, much more open area where houses could not be constructed. And now with city zoning to the north and county zoning to the south, we have an inconsistency between the two subdivisions, which is to be anticipated because of the difference between county zoning and city zoning. So with that thought in mind, there is still an objection from the Homeowners Association to any connection onto Knollwood, which would solely be for the purpose of serving that subdivision, Greenbrier, and of no benefit to the residents of the Dells. The county already takes care of plowing snow on Knollwood. Maintenance, as with most subdivisions, there's some question as to what maintenance the county actually does within a subdivision. But the residents of the Dells are willing to forego that commitment from Steve Moriarty, apparently, that they would accept it into their maintenance system if there is no traffic coming from Greenbrier South directly into the Dells. The other problem with routing that traffic in that direction is the convoluted path that has to be taken from Knollwood to get out of the Dells. It's not a straight shot anywhere. It's all through solely residential areas. And from the standpoint of the preliminary plat, we would suggest that the more appropriate method is to utilize the entrance on Airport Road and the north entrance out of Greenbrier as the sole points of connection, and don't dump any additional traffic into the Dells. excuse me, in regard to the planned unit development, there is still an inconsistency between planned unit development zoning classifications and R1 zoning classifications. And there is even a much greater inconsistency in that zoning between Warsaw's PUD district and the county's residential district. Just by looking at the planned unit development area, you can see the higher density. You can see that it will, as per the commitments, result in 0 setbacks on certain lots. The simple density of it is the question that has to be answered from the standpoint of zoning. Is it consistent with your master plan from the standpoint that it's residential? Yes. Is it consistent with the character of the neighborhood that already exists, being the Dells? No, it's not. It's much higher density. It is a different type of ownership than open residential, which the Dells has been since it was created decades ago. And that's the inconsistency that my clients are opposed to. The typical planned unit development will not only reduce lot size for the benefit of the developer, but one of the requirements it is that it creates open area for the benefit of the residents. You make the lots smaller, you provide a playground, you provide greater open space where, since the lots are smaller, the residents can go from the standpoint of having an open area. I don't see that here from the standpoint of where is it that that open area will exist when you have 1,750 square foot homes on very small lots. That is an inconsistency from the planned unit development. Now, that can be corrected between now and the time a final plat is approved by this plan commission. And I think it should be taken note of at this point that if you're going to reduce the lot sizes to that extent, then provide greater open space area for the benefit of the residents and for the benefit of the adjacent owners in the Dells. One of the things that had been discussed either at or subsequent to last month's hearing was the possibility of screening the PUD from the Dells subdivision itself. And instead, what has happened is this area has been left R1, which makes slightly larger lots, and there is no screening then between the PUD and these portions of the Dells. If this had been left a PUD over to here, there was a discussion about screening, and right now it appears what we have is a detention area for surface water drainage. And this will be open with, for instance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lots against the back of 2 lots. So we would suggest that as a part of the PUD approval, you have the authority to require some type of screening along that south boundary line so that the higher density area is screened from the low density area known as the Dells. Certainly the extension of sanitary sewer to the area is not only beneficial, it's essential, because you can't have lots this size and obtain a septic system under the county and state regulations. So, however that expense is being shared to extend sanitary sewers, that's fine. They won't be extended to the Dells, and the Dells are still on septic and well, and probably will be for the foreseeable future. Again, that's the difference between high-density zoning and low-density zoning, which is the county zoning south of this area. So 2 points. Again, the subdivision, if we simply eliminate this, leave this as a cul-de-sac, and have nothing coming out to the south to connect to Knollwood, this traffic's going to go to Airport, or it's going to go up and out this way. There could also be a loop here connecting it to this road if the developer found that necessary or you found it more appropriate rather than diverting traffic to the Dells. From the standpoint of the planned unit development, the commitments are good and they are binding and they have lessened the impact because we now know the type of housing, but we're still looking at high-density housing in an area immediately north of the Dells. This area is simply going to be part of the neighborhood that the residents in the Dells are exposed to. And we're still looking for that type of screening to lessen the impact of that high-density housing.
Does that conclude your comments, sir?
It does. Any
Thank
questions?
you. Any questions for Counselor? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak in opposition to this petition? Good, I assume that the counselor did a very good job, as always. Would you like to counter a couple of points, sir? I believe you have a quick shot at that.
We're really happy that the Dells believes that this is a significant improvement, I think is what we heard just now. The dumping, if we could go back to the plan, well, no, that's fine. The concept that Greenbrier is going to be dumping traffic into the Dells is a little hard to understand when, at the same time, the Dells is telling us that once you get into their subdivision, it's, I think what I wrote down, it's a convoluted path to anywhere. So we're not certain why the analysis is that Greenbrier is going to be dumping into the Dells. If anything, which is good planning, the benefit of Greenbrier is that it allows the Dells the ability for other means to reach Airport Road or County Road 350. But there is not one credible traffic planner who is going to confirm or affirm that the residents within Greenbrier are going to find their way through what's been described by the Dells themselves as a convoluted pathway. We just don't see that. We also don't see the inconsistency of zoning jurisdictions. Mind you, if I was in front of the county right now, this would be the exact same development, Greenbrier would. And we would have public sanitary sewer, assuming that we could make arrangements and reach an agreement with the city of Warsaw to extend it. That makes no difference. It's not that there's inconsistency of zoning jurisdictions. It's an inconsistency in good development practices. And the Dells is a beautiful subdivision, but it has septic, and that's why they're large lots. And that just is not the favored development method, regardless of where you are in the city of Warsaw or in the county of Kosciuszko. It's not an inconsistency of zoning jurisdictions. So we would disagree with that. As to the PUD, Mr. Taylor, if we could bring the plan back up, please. Thank you. So we did, Mr. Snyder is correct. We did look at one point after the hearing last month of bringing the PUD all the way south so that it would abut the lots of the Dells. We decided against it because we believe based on what we heard tonight, there'd be even more criticism, more fault with the design. So the buffer that the Dells is asking for is already here. The buffer are platted R1 lots that fully comply with the development standards of your zoning ordinance. And will be developed that way, with homes being built by D.R. Horton in a price range, as we indicated last month, that are very comparable and consistent with the price range that we are finding the fair market value of the Dells. There is green space, as indicated in our plan, that is set aside just to the west of the PUD that will be shared by the Villas of Greenbrier and Greenbrier, so that has been taken into account. And then again, I'll just, I think the best way for us to end is to reiterate what was said to you by the Dells themselves. And that is that the written commitment that's been given to you is good. It's good. It addresses a lot of development issues. And we did that purposely. Not as a trick, not as a gotcha, but we did it because this development group has listened. They've listened to the neighbors, and they've been patient and have considered what they believe this plan commission wants as well. But be that as it may, zero lot line villaminiums, owner-occupied villaminiums, where you own your lot, you own your home, at a price point that will be very comparable to all the other housing in the area, is very, very much needed. Very much needed. I dare say some of the folks who live in the Dells, who may want to retire as they go along in years, this type of housing product is exactly meant for them. Exactly meant for them. And there is too little of it, we believe, in the analysis that we've done. And this is not the only development that is ongoing in Warsaw and Nona Lake by this developer. But we believe that this type of housing product is sorely needed and is a very good compatible match with the detached single-family product within the R1 that's being proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will take questions from the Planning Commission. Any questions for our points or statements for the Planning Commission?
I don't have a question, but I do want to support this interconnect to the Dells. Good traffic flow. It's quite obvious that when the county approved the Dells, they planned for a connector road. There are 3 cul-de-sacs sitting there and could have just as easily have been a 4th, but clearly somebody in that planning department also saw the need for an interconnect north out of that subdivision. They required them to put that there. Huge benefit for first responders. Someone trying to get to that northern end of the Dells, first responders have an alternate way to get in there now. So it isn't just traffic flow from residents, it's emergency vehicles being able to get in and get out of there. So I totally support that. I think this redesign from an engineering standpoint is a huge improvement. I like it.
Thank you, James. Any other questions from the commission?
I'm not an engineer, but Justin, will you put the map, the other one up? I've had over the years school teacher and coach and just live here friends and student athletes and people that I know. It'd be very interesting, Birchwood, Deerwood. I've been in that addition, okay? And if this new one was approved, I would probably never drive through, okay, the Dells ever again to get to my friends on Birchwood. In fact, I have friends right now that live on Birchwood with a swimming pool close to Knollwood. I would go into the new addition. And I do believe Birchwood and Deerwood, anybody that owns a property there, huge amount of relief in my eyes, again, not an engineer, not traffic study, I would no longer go through the addition to head west or north. I would go into the new addition so I could get to Airport Road. And if I did live in the new addition, whether it was the PUD or the R1 along the back rail, I would never go into the Dells either, ever. I would go to Airport Road to get to 350 or Airport Road to head south. I just see it as a huge advantage to the Dells there. Not just traffic, but also walking, common neighborhoods, connections. If you go back to the site plan, Steve made a good point. It was brought up with screening. On the southeast side or northeast of the Dells, that row of homes, I think, is in R1. That's not a part of, Justin, the PUD. And so requiring screening like that, R1 butting up against R1 is something that they have followed the standards that we have, and that's not a requirement. The other question I have is the green space, you have it marked Block E green space. It looks like, it's almost like a U shape. Is that detention area, is that going to be dry? Is that going to be wet? Is that going to be used at all? I do like the idea that you've tried to keep it close to the PUD and to the R1 development. I think that would be very attractive to have something for families to go to with both developments. It's sort of hard to see, and it looks like it's somewhat connected. I can't tell how big it might be, picnic tables, that kind of thing, for the residents, but I see it, I think you have it Block E green space. And so maybe clarification there would help. Also the PUD, Justin, help me out, maybe the petitioner can. 42 lots, 42 units, is that correct? 42 units. There will be 42 units on 42 lots, is that correct? And there are setback requirements. I see in item 5 with the restrictions that you're proposing here and eventually to council, 25 feet front yard, 25 feet rear, 15 along block areas, but there is 0 side yard setback because of what you're trying to accomplish. And then I see up at the top on item 3, minimum single story, 1,250 feet. And then minimum 2-story is 1,700 square feet. That's minimum. Okay. And so again, I'd like this board, to talk a little bit about that. And I don't know what the vote was. We have a lot of residents here. And again, just a layman talking. If I lived on the north side of the Dells, I would find this something very attractive. Just to get in and out. I do not see that development, anybody in their right mind, going through the Dells to head south. I just don't, I would never do it. I just don't know why. And then again, maybe the Block E, maybe some comments on that green space area. So that's me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Can you
I
point
think-
out where the green space is with the, okay, because I'm not,
I
my
believe
vision's
we're
so
talking
bad.
about Block C.
Up, it's
Where's
Block
the-
E, green space, it's in the middle of the lot on the north side. And it looks like it's a half of a U or an L side right there, right where your pin is.
Okay.
And that whole section is Block A, correct?
Block A, and it says Block E again, I can't tell the size of it. It's a swing set, picnic table, maybe, that kind of thing. I know that the dry area is like at Lincoln, the kids playing. I mean, it's dry, 99% of the time. But it just looks like it's an odd shape. But again, I do appreciate the petitioner looking that direction. The neighborhood green space or park for that, for both of them.
I think Mr. Snyder's comment was in the PUD area, there is not a green space. Did I quote that correctly, Mr. Snyder? There's no green space in the PUD.
Right.
Yeah. That was one of the objections.
Yes.
As well. I have to
Good
follow the
point, too.
the intuitive nature of traffic that I think our comments are probably going to be found to be correct. I don't think too many people are going to use that road to go south. I think the answer is north. James, if I'd like to a little further comment on it, because I know you live and breathe this. what is your thoughts on, you said emergency vehicles is certainly one thing, is that, but there's thought that's gone into that when they put that in there, that really is to enhance emergency first responders. Is that correct?
Enhance access into that Dells. To me, it has nothing to do whether the county maintained the road or not. The planners understood that with the development in this the overall block area, you've got to have continuity to get vehicles moving in and out, especially first responders.
Yeah.
And that's why it was there. I just look at it as, had the developer and the county at the time the Dells was platted not wanted that connectivity, they would have had a fourth cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
It's quite clear that that was the plan, and it was a good plan.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
The city has a similar spot that was in our packet on the south side of the city that was developed from a county to a city and back. And it's a nightmare to try, it's down south off of State Road 15. And the exact thing that is being asked to create exists, and there is no resolve. I have looked into it, and there is no easy way. Dogwood Drive was planned to come into the Eisenhower development. And when that Eisenhower development went in, it didn't make that interconnection. That area has an isolated one way in, one way out.
Basically a bottleneck.
Basically a bottleneck. There should have been an interconnect to the Eisenhower Parkway.
So in essence, this is a much better way to do things.
Yeah.
Okay, we've lived the bad way. All right, thank you.
And I was one of the people that pushed hard for that
Diane?
access onto Airport Road.
I can't hear you as well, Derek. Yeah, thank you.
I was one of the people that pushed hard for the access onto Airport Road, and the reason being is because we're putting an emergency substation at the airport. So as that remodel happens, there will be emergency vehicles stationed there, and this is the best way for them to get in and both service Greenbrier, but to service the Dells. So looking at a long-range plan, we are not extending services as far as sewer services out there in order to service this area. We are actually extending them out there already, regardless of whether this goes in order to service the airport and the growth out in that area. So that infrastructure is already planned for, budgeted for, paid for, and knowing that there was going to be emergency vehicles stationed right there at the airport, I really wanted that access out of this subdivision onto that. The other thing that I'd like to comment on is, I'm one of the people also that asked the developer to look at having R1 lots abut next to the residential. So at sacrifice, yes, so at sacrifice to them, because they sacrificed some units. I mean, if you look at the number of original units that were going to go in there, it's cut down. But they agreed to do that because they listened to what was said here and people's concerns about that. It is a more dense area than what they're used to because our lot sizes requirement in the city is less than what was there at the time that the Dells were built, and that's an older subdivision. But frankly, if I had some neighbors that moved in whose dog was always in my yard. And after much negotiation, the dog was not staying out of my yard, so I put a fence in my yard. And so sometimes, there is the option for the Dells homeowners as well to create a buffer across the back of their properties if it indeed bothers them that they feel like there's a clear sight line into the PUD. And they may feel like, well, why do I have to go to that extra expense? I felt the same way about why do I have to go to the extra expense of putting the fence in when it's their dog in my yard? But the person that lived there before liked the dogs in their yard, and they'd encourage the dogs to be in their yard, and that just didn't gel well with my dogs in my yard. And so, as a person, I had to adjust to the change, and I had to put the fence there. And then new neighbors just moved in on the other side. Guess what? 2 dogs. Guess what? Never fenced, never trained. Where did they want to be? Right in the yard with my dog. So now, I've got the same situation on the other side. But, I mean, I think that's part of, and I'm sure you've learned to live with your neighbors out in the Dells for different, similar circumstances like that. The other thing I'd like to say, just that we really haven't mentioned, but that the city's rules of living are a lot more strict. And I've been out in the Dells just recently, and there's not going to be open leaf burning out there. There's not going to be stuff on people's yards. There's not going to be any brush piles allowed to pile up out there. There's not going to be any junk allowed to be, into the yards. There's not going to be some of the things that I see that are problematic in the Dells, and that, I have a friend that lives out there that has asthma, and they just can't go out as soon as you guys start burning your leaves and doing things like that. So there are some advantages to having city property north to you, even though it doesn't feel like it right now. There are some advantages because we're really strict about our codes, and we get on them. And when people are not in compliance, we take care of it. And so I think that would be an advantage as well. You can hear somebody say, well, these are going to be nicer houses, the lots are going to be maintained, et cetera, but they're going to be maintained to safety, sanitary, and sightly conditions when they're part of the city. So I think that's an important thing to take into consideration as well as we're looking at this.
Thank you, Diane. Any other comments from the commission? Thank you. Well, with that, I should have closed it already to the public, but thank you all for your comments. I have one more question. I think a lot of work has been done on this, and obviously the city planner agrees, and I think both members of the city council have said that. I just wanted to ask the developer, how many lots were reduced to make these accommodations? I think it was several.
Well, on the PUD, Mr. Chairman, we went over 70, or over 70 lots that are.
In the original proposal of a month ago,
And that's gone down now.
to 42.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
And then to make the other accommodations, I think there had to be some lots given up as well, too.
Yes.
Okay, and as a developer, that's not an insignificant decision. Okay, thank you, sir.
Plus the green space that I asked them for that they put in, I think took another lot, if I look at it correctly. Yeah,
So there's another one that's been,
yeah.
The Block E area, is that what you're, yeah?
yeah. Those aren't insignificant decisions that are made. Thank you, sir. All right, with that, we've got the two. I think we have to vote on them separately, I think, Scott, correctly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If there's no other discussion, would the commission like to make a motion? Because this is a preliminary plat. The next step, it goes to the city council. And if the objections that are yet to be made, haven't been made, can be made there, just in case it happens to go
So the
forward.
preliminary
Just-
plat will.
Go ahead.
Just for clarification, it's a primary plat.
Primary, sorry.
Yeah, so it's a primary plat. The first petition was for a primary plat to be approved for the R1 district. It looks like those first lots number 1 through 86 in the primary plat. I think that's the first thing I want to vote.
And then it goes to city council.
No.
No.
Just the PUD.
This is it. Okay, I thought I heard that today, that we were.
Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe we need to consider taking action on the R1
Separately.
development,
Right.
which is the 33 acres, 86 lots. Then we should consider the PUD, which is a rezone, and the PUD, if it's voted on, if it's approved, is a recommendation
To the city council. Okay, thank you.
And also, since they just asked for a preliminary plat, they'll come back to us with a
Yes.
final
But
plat then
just,
for
again,
us to look at.
it's not preliminary plat. It's a primary plat.
Primary.
Primary
Thank you.
plat.
Yes.
We were getting confused and we're running the meeting. That's not good. All right, thank you. So we do have the two, and I think we can start with the R1 as the first one. I believe that is the 10/1/2021, correct, Justin? Have I got that correct?
So
All right.
is the information that we got under the general information incorrect, where it says that the requested action is the preliminary plat? Is that incorrect?
It should be stated as a primary plat. You're being asked to approve the primary plat that was submitted in their first petition that appears to be in full compliance with the R1 zoning of our city, that they're asking that you approve their primary plat, which appears to me to be the lots 1 through 86, as one petition. And then the second petition is the PUD, which is a request for a rezoning, which you would make a recommendation to the city council to approve the PUD as a rezoned unit from.
As a PUD.
But I'm confused as to the next step. So you approve a primary plat, then do we have to still have a preliminary and a final plat?
The preliminary and the primary are interchangeable.
Okay, that's what I
So some
thought.
ordinances call it a primary, some call it a preliminary. Either way, what you're approving is, in general, what you see laid out. They have to then do the engineering and come back with a final plat, which cannot substantially change from the preliminary and/or primary, however you're defining it in our ordinances. I'm not entirely sure which one our ordinance references. It may reference preliminary rather than primary, but they're the same thing.
Okay, that's what I thought. And then would the secondary one will be all the little, here's where the drainage is, here's where the utility lines, here's
Yeah,
where.
the final will clarify all that.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I knew what I was voting on.
I think we've got it clear now. With that,
I would make a motion to approve the primary/preliminary plat to subdivide a 33.256 acre lot into 86 lots of R1.
to go through one lot of
Known as
1 through
Greenbrier.
86. All right, very good.
Before I second that, I'd just like to state again that this is following all of our R1 guidelines. So this board, we have been presented with this one, compliance with all of our R1 we've currently established. So saying that, I'll second the motion.
Motion has been made, it's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone dissent? The motion carries unanimously. 10:02:21, the Villas of Greenbrier PUD on County Road 350 North. We're asking for permission or favorable to present to the city council for rezoning for the PUD. I think I stated that correctly. With that, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we send a favorable recommendation to the city council to consider the PUD.
Thank you, Diane. So motion, seconded.
I'll second.
Thank you, sir. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone in dissent? That also carries unanimously. That will go as a favorable to the city council. Thank you very much. All right, with that, is there any other matters that come before this board?
There are none.
We have one last motion.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone object? We stand in adjournment. Thank you all for your attention and the courtesy tonight. I think a lot of things were resolved. Well done.
I didn't realize this.
I thought they did a really good job.